Hi, I'm Darren from Fish Tech Global. In this video, we're going to talk about bacteria. Bacteria in the aquarium. Bacteria that metabolizes the waste of the fish and makes the aquarium water healthy. So let's take a look. Okay, what happens to the fish's waste? The fish's waste is the feces that the fish excrete, the excess food. Even your aquatic plants can create a waste in the aquarium, and also the fish shed their mucus coating in the aquarium. So all this builds up. It's trapped by the filter. Mechanically, the filter will trap all the waste and it will ferment in the tank and be quite putrid and send the water off. The filter that we have in our aquarium, all the filters, are biological filters. That's the filters that metabolize waste, break down the waste and make it harmless. So the water environment is suitable for the fish. Well, how is this done? It's done by the bacteria that live in the filter. So no matter what sort of aquarium you have, before you can start adding fish from a new aquarium, we must develop the bacteria in the water to keep the fish healthy. The fish create a lot of waste, and the filtration system's job is to keep the water healthy. So we've got to put the bacteria into the filter system and get the bacteria established so that the fish can be healthy. Regardless of what sort of filtration system you have, the same rule applies. Why do we call filters biological filters? Because they develop bacteria in them and become biological. Whether you have an internal filter, a hang-on filter, a canister filter, an undergo filter, or even a sump, all those filters require bacteria. So let's take a look at a filtration system. Okay, this system is a sump system. Now what we are looking at is the first stage where the water comes in. This is the media that traps most of the waste that comes in and is more a mechanical stage. It will go biological, but it traps a lot of the waste particles. We clean this stage regularly, say every 3 weeks to say 4 weeks, depending on the biological load of the aquarium. The water then goes through to a second stage. These are sponges, and the sponges will collect the waste, develop bacteria, and break the waste down. When we clean the sponges, we lose a lot of the bacteria. So there we have our third stage, which has got some pretty strange looking things in there. They're called filter noodles. The filter noodles don't trap as much particulate matter, but as the water passes over the noodles, the bacteria that lives in the filter noodles will turn the wastewater, the inorganics in the water like ammonia, nitrite, into nitrate. The ammonia is converted to nitrite. The nitrite is converted to a harmless, less harmless nitrate. It then goes back to the return pump up to the aquarium. As we clean these two areas here frequently to remove the particulate matter, to keep the filter from blocking, this section over here requires a lot less cleaning. It traps less particulate matter. And the bacteria thrive in this section here. They will also live in the first two compartments, but we lose some of the bacteria, and the bacteria can be inhibited by the water channeling as the detritus accumulates. That's a sump system. So we have our delivery where the water comes in, and our first two stages where the detritus is trapped and removed for the biological stage, where the water is converted into cleaner, more healthier water for the fish, and then we go into the return stage where the pump delivers the water back to your main aquarium. Okay, the filters on your aquarium are biological filters, and they come in different styles. We have the canister filter here, which sits outside the aquarium, and the water is delivered to the aquarium and extracted from the aquarium via hoses. We have your overflow filter that hangs on the side of the aquarium, and we also have your internal filter. There are other types of filters, sponge filters, under gravel filters. As we saw before, we have your sump filters. All have different media, but the definition of biological filtration is water flows over a media. The media develops bacteria, and the bacteria breaks down the waste. Different types of media will develop the bacteria in different ways. Synthetic media develops less bacteria and more slowly. The bacteria takes a long time to adapt to synthetic media. Natural media like gravel and expanded clay will actually develop the bacteria much faster and respond to different levels of biological load. Natural media is far superior. Okay, here we have examples of different types of media. We have synthetic media like your sponge, bioballs which are made of plastic. They have a very, very large surface area. Expanded clay, it's a natural media, and also your aquarium gravel you can use as a biological media. Any types of aquarium gravel will be suitable as a great biological media for the bacteria to develop and live on. So when we're talking about bacteria, what are the different types of bacteria that we are referring to? And what does it actually do in what's called the biological cycle? Let's take a look. Okay, so what is the actual biological cycle of the aquarium? Well, the fish produce a waste from the mucus coat that they excrete continuously, as they're always excreting and replacing their mucus coating, which protects the fish from their environment. From the fish food that goes into the aquarium as you're feeding the fish, and also the waste that fish generally produce from their feces, will all produce ammonia. Ammonia is converted to nitrite. Ammonia is very, very toxic. It's converted to nitrite by nitrosomus bacteria. Nitrite is slightly less toxic but can be harmful to more sensitive fish and invertebrates in the aquarium, and it's converted to nitrate by nitrobacter bacteria. The nitrate is removed by water changes and aquatic plants. The bacteria that we're looking at here that lives in your filter is called heterotrophic bacteria. It relies on oxygen. It's aerobic. So we need to keep the aquarium well oxygenated for this bacteria to survive and thrive in your aquarium. So where does this bacteria come from, and how do we place it in your aquarium? When we set up a new aquarium, of course there's no bacteria in the aquarium. The aquarium is what we call sterile. So once you activate your filters, you oxygenate the water and of course dechlorinate the water. We then add your bacterial additives to the water. There's a whole myriad of different bacterial additives on the market. They contain live bacteria. So we add them to the aquarium at the initial setup stage. We also add a smaller bit of fish food into the aquarium, a tiny little pinch. This will start the bacterial cycle off. The food will break down, it will form ammonia, and it will be converted to nitrite by the bacteria that we added in the initial setup stage. Now, with the ammonia and nitrite test kits, we test the water, and that will tell us how the bacteria is developing and when our aquarium is cycled. As the food breaks down, the bacteria builds up. It's like a little seesaw. So the biological waste is reduced to harmless, and the bacteria will come up and consume all that waste and convert it and make it harmless. This is cycling the aquarium. It's one of the most critical stages. It also requires a lot of patience. But once the ammonia and the nitrite levels are zero, and the aquarium shows we're producing a small amount of nitrate to show that the biological cycle is going through, that is when our aquarium is ready for fish. Now, with the testing of the water, you can buy test kits from your local aquarium store, or your aquarium store can do the water testing for you. You could buy ammonia, nitrite and nitrate test kits, or a master test kit which will give you all the levels that you need to monitor during the cycling process of the aquarium. So what initially happens when the aquarium is cycling? Well, let's take a look on this little colour chart. On the colour chart we can see, and this is a freshwater colour chart, but freshwater or saltwater colour charts, the ammonia starts at zero, and as the colour intensifies, that shows a higher and higher level of ammonia. In the initial stage, the ammonia will rise. As the bacteria reduces in numbers, it will drop the ammonia back to zero. The nitrite, as this is occurring, will rise. Then as the Nitrobacter bacteria increases in numbers and is able to metabolize all the biological waste and convert your nitrite to nitrate, it will reduce the nitrite back to zero. The nitrate will then start to rise, and that will show us that when these levels return to zero, they will begin at zero, they will rise, return to zero, and then your nitrite will come up and show a small reading to show the nitrogen cycle is complete and your aquarium is ready for fish. Other ways to cycle the aquarium is to use media from an existing aquarium. You can use the filter media, you could use some of the detritus out of the gravel and sprinkle it into your new aquarium, and this contains bacteria that will help seed the aquarium. To cycle your new aquarium faster, you can use the media out of an existing filter. You could simply wash the filter cartridge in some water or vacuum the existing aquarium, and using the detritus you can pour that into your new aquarium, and that will help cycle the new aquarium much more efficiently. So adding bacteria to the new aquarium is quite important, and it will cycle your aquarium over about the next 2 to 3 weeks. It takes generally to cycle an aquarium. Marine aquariums, saltwater aquariums may take a little bit longer. Using water from an existing aquarium, just the water that you take out without any detritus, contains very little bacteria. Detritus in the media, in the filter, contain the bulk of the bacteria and is most useful for cycling the aquarium. To maintain the bacteria after the aquarium is cycled, it's best to wash the filter media in the aquarium water, not under a tap which has chlorine if it's town water. Dechlorinated water is the best for washing your filter media in, just to make sure the bacteria isn't lost during the cleaning process. So using the filter media or the detritus from an existing aquarium will hasten and speed up the process of cycling your new aquarium. The water from an existing aquarium, just the water itself in the body of water, without detritus, will contain very little bacteria. There's very little suspended within the body of water unless it contains a high level of organics. But the filter media or the detritus that is vacuumed from the gravel of the aquarium, placed into your new aquarium to cycle it, is the most efficient way to speed the process up. The process takes around 2 to 3 weeks. During the weeks that it takes to recycle the aquarium, we test the water once or twice a week with your ammonia and your nitrite kit. Just as we showed you on the chart with the biological cycle, we test the ammonia, which will rise, and then it will lower, and the nitrite will increase. And the nitrite will then lower and form nitrate. When we have zero ammonia, zero nitrite, showing a small amount of nitrate, that shows our aquarium has actually gone through the biological cycle and is ready for new fish. After our aquarium is cycled and is ready for the new fish, we only add a small number of fish at a time. Say 1 or 2 fish to the aquarium. Then we test the water every day just to see how those fish are affecting the quality of the water. As we increase the biological load, we also require more bacteria. After the aquarium has just been cycled, it's only got enough bacteria to cope with the small amount of biological waste available without any stock load. So we start with only a few fish, we test the water. After about a week or so, we can add a few more fish, slowly build up the stock load so that the fish's waste that's produced is slowly building up in proportion to the amount of bacteria available. That way, all the fish's waste is metabolized and the aquarium's water will be high quality and quite safe for the aquarium fish. When it comes to feeding the fish, it's very important we don't put too much food in the aquarium. This will add to the biological waste in the aquarium. We feed the fish what they can eat in 60 seconds. So just a small amount of food goes into the aquarium for the fish to consume. Roughly after about 60 seconds, all the food should be consumed. If there's food left over, reduce the amount of food going into the aquarium. If the fish consume all the food in a very short time, then we just add a little bit more. But after 60 seconds, all the food should be consumed, and you can feed the fish twice a day. As we can see, after about 60 seconds, all the food is gone. Overfeeding the fish is one of the great problems of fish keeping, so be sure you give your fish the precise amount of food they require and not overfeed the fish. So, with all the talk about the bacteria that lives within the filters, why don't we go and have a look at what the bacteria actually looks like? So we can go to our laboratory, through our microscope, we can show you the bacteria that lives within your filter, the bacteria that maintains and runs your aquarium. So this is some of the bacteria that's found within your biological filter. These little guys here are the most important part of your aquarium filtration. They break down all your waste and they convert harmful ammonia to nitrite, and the nitrite is then converted to nitrate. These guys live in your filter and make sure the water is pure for your fish to live in. So there it is. That's all about the bacteria that maintains our aquariums and how important it is. There are other types of filtration for the aquarium. There's mechanical filtration and chemical filtration. We'll cover those in another video. But the most important is to get that biological cycle started and happening and maintain the bacteria that's in your aquarium. So that's all for this video, and we'll see you another time.